Hi there and welcome to this video. In this video I'm going to talk to you about the strategy of using options to then get an HMO property under your control. So we've talked in our other option videos about securing a potential property. Let's assume this time you look for a local property in your area. And in my area, actually, if it's over 2 floors only, not a third floor, even if you have 5 different people in there, it's not a HMO, which is pretty wonderful. But most areas would consider that an HMO nowadays. So you've got to understand your HMO strategy. I'm not teaching that in this video. I'm just teaching options here. So make sure you understand your HMO strategy and you've spoken to your local councils where you're buying and you understand those rules and regs. They're on different videos, different setup. But let me assume that you know you can HMO this property. So I go find a particular property that I know I can HMO. And that particular property is on the market right now today, let's say for £170,000. But I know if I buy that property and I do various things with it and turn it into an HMO, I can get it to rent for £30,000 per annum. And the vendor, let's say, has got a mortgage on it of £150,000. So I go along to the vendor. I said, do you know what, Mr. Vendor? I'd like to take an option out on your property to buy it. And I'll pay you, might be a bit more money than £1 because this property is worth a bit more, £1,000 today to take an option out on your property. And at some point in the next 5 years, I'll buy your property from you for a total of £160,000. Now, if this is in a flat market, the vendor goes, great, I'm out of here, I can cash out at 160, I know the deal is done, I can get rid of the stress and the hassle. Now, there's all sorts of different scenarios running off here, and your mind might be running off in lots of different ways. This could already be an HMO with a tired landlord running it. And you can't get a mortgage because you don't have a deposit, and they just want rid of running it. But their mortgage payments are really cheap on this £150,000 because they've had it a while. So then you might get in and do a 7-year option with them and just run it and take your time on it. Okay? But I'm assuming in this example that this was a house and you're going to do a bit of do-up on the house. So you might have some refurbishment budget here where you do this house up and turn it into HMO. It's a bit like rent-to-rent strategy where you rent a property and then HMO it out. But here we're taking an option on it, which means we can buy it at a set price at any time in the next 5 years. Now, we get it ready to HMO. Let's assume that takes £10,000 and we get the license on it. And now we HMO that property out. And let's assume that's bringing in £2,500 per month. Now, going back here, let's say the mortgage this person was paying was £600 a month, something like that. Okay, 5% on the mortgage, something like that. So now, in the next 5 years, you've agreed to take over that cost and the cost of running the property. So you might have a mortgage at £600. You might have the council tax and the bills on the property at £400. You might have other running costs at another £300 or £400. Well, you're making £1,100 per month on this property. You've taken an option on a property, so you don't even own it. You've spent, in this example, £11,000 getting set up. So in the first year, you're just going to earn your money back. But then in years 2, 3, 4, and 5, you are making profit. If that's making you £1,000 a month for years 2, 3, 4, and 5, you've just made £50,000 profit over that 4-year period. Now, if the property's not gone up in value at all, you may never exercise this option. You may never choose to buy the person out and exercise the option. Couple of things. You can just put the property on the market to sell. And if the market at least is flat, you've got that 5 years to sell it. You're now selling it as an HMO, a going concern, making great money. An investor will come along and take it for 170 minimum. But if you've spent 10 on it, turn it into an HMO, it's probably worth more. So your outs are now to sell. Or if it's gone up in value enough, you can use the out where, let's say it's now worth 300,000. It's gone up in value 40, 50% over that time, including your refurbishment. And it's worth 300,000. You could get a mortgage of 210 on it quite comfortably. Well, then you buy it for cash. This is where you use the 9% money. You buy it for cash. and then in 6 months' time you remortgage and you end up with a property worth 300,000 and a mortgage of 210 on it. The critical thing is to plan your outs, plan where you may end up at the end of this, and see what money you're making in the meantime. And make sure the properties you're taking options on, you want to spend as little money as possible. Let's go through the points here. As little as money as possible here. As little as money as possible here because it affects your cash flow. You want to be cash flowing as much as possible and account for all the costs. Don't be blasé. Make sure you've accounted for them all. And then you need to know your out strategy. Your out strategy is just to sell once you've got this ready. Because if you sell it at 180 and you've got to pay them 160, you've made 20,000 there when you sell. Or is your strategy to refinance? And what does it need to get to value-wise to make it worth triggering and taking into your name? Finally, you want this to be over as many years as possible to give you the flexibility within that option agreement. So that's an example of option into HMO. Remember, it could be option on an HMO and you just take control of it and run it for 5 years and take the profits and see if it goes up in value so you can do this, or you sell it on. That can work really well when you're starting out. Just find a tired HMO or someone who is now 60, 70 years old, does not want to run HMOs anymore, and you've got the energy and the time and you're willing to do it. That strategy can work really, really well in here. Again, in areas where properties cost a lot of money, you're getting in for so much less money here. You know, if the property is £1 million property, you're in the centre of London, you might be happy, you might not have the deposit of £300,000 to buy that, but you might have 10 or 20,000 you're happy to put down as an option fee because of all the profit it's going to make you. So don't be afraid to look at the bigger deals. Bigger deals sometimes won't shift because there isn't a buyer to buy that big, massive HMO. I know people have got financially free in one deal using this type of option way in. So they've taken their money and used that way in. I don't recommend that, by the way. I don't recommend just doing one big deal because all your eggs are in one basket. But I'm just giving you a flavour. Really hope you found this video useful. Invest with knowledge, invest with confidence, create financial freedom. I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.